Hi, it's Katrina. Number 10. Recent King Tut discoveries. Perhaps the most famous ancient Egyptian burial ever discovered is that of King Tutankhamun, better known as King Tut. British archaeologist Howard Carter found the tomb in Egypt's Valley of the Kings in 1922. It was the first pharaoh's tomb that hadn't been looted at some point throughout history. King Tut was only 18 years old when he died abruptly for reasons that remain unclear to this day. He remained an obscure, little-known figure in history until Carter discovered his tomb and the king rose to fame. It took years for archaeologists to clear thousands of artifacts from the boy king's tomb. The most magnificent discovery is the sarcophagus the king was found in. It was made from pure gold and kept his remains safe for 3,000 years. But there were other objects found inside the burial that offered some insight into the young ruler's short life. For example, 2 mummified fetuses were laid to rest nearby. It wasn't until 2008 that experts were able to determine that the babies were actually King Tut's daughters, and that they were likely mothered by his half-sister and great royal wife, Ankhesenamun. As scholars continue to study the ancient ruler, they are able to give the public a more accurate depiction of him. The Milwaukee Public Museum currently has a display of King Tut and his chariot that Education Programs Coordinator Richard Hederman described as a more cutting-edge level of Tut scholarship. He went on to explain that the chariot's 2 horses were modeled after what was found in the tomb and based on popular styles of the time. Experts even relied on CT scans of Tut's face to create a realistic forensic reconstruction. Number 9. A missing 8th continent. Millions of years ago, the Earth was a very different place. Sometime between 87 and 79 million years ago, a large piece of the Earth's crust broke free from the supercontinent of Gondwana. It began to sink into the ocean, and 23 million years after it started its descent, it was completely submerged. Scientists officially discovered the 2 million square mile sunken landmass known as Zealandia during the 1990s, and spent several years going back and forth on what to classify it as. Then, finally, in 2017, a study announced that Zealandia met all the qualifications for being classified as a submerged continent, rather than a continental fragment. It's roughly 1 billion years old, making it the world's youngest continent. It's also the smallest and thinnest, and contains just a handful of islands sticking out of the water. The remaining 94% of Zealandia sits beneath the waves, where it went unnoticed for centuries as explorers searched the globe for new continents. It hasn't been studied much, for the obvious reason that it is thousands of feet below the water's surface. But scientists are working to learn more about it now that they know that it's there. Number 8. Ancient Martian volcano. Less than a year after landing on Mars, NASA's Perseverance rover has made at least one surprising discovery. Recent findings indicate that lava once flowed at the site of an ancient lake on the red planet known as the Jezero crater. Scientists had previously wondered if the bedrock the rover drives on was made of sedimentary rock, if the material was deposited by an ancient river, or if it was igneous rock, which is made from cooled volcanic material. They were close to giving up on ever finding out the answer when the Perseverance used its array of sophisticated instruments to examine the rock's composition and mineral content. The analysis revealed the presence of olivine and pyroxene crystals, which are both indicators that the rock came from volcanic lava flows. It was formed from thick, cooling magma and was then altered several times by water when the planet still had an abundance of liquid. Scientists are studying the samples to learn more about the past presence of water on the red planet. They are also trying to figure out if the rocks were formed in a cooling lake of lava or some other way, perhaps in an underground chamber that was eventually exposed by erosion. Number 7. The glass octopus. The seldom seen glass octopus is almost completely transparent. Its eyes, optic nerve, and digestive tract are the only opaque parts of its body. The species was first discovered in 1918, but it's only been seen a handful of times since then. And until recently, the only way for scientists to study the glass octopus was by examining the gut contents of its predators. Consequently, they know very little about these elusive creatures, which live between 200 and 3,000 meters below the surface in tropical and subtropical waters. Researchers finally got the chance to see a glass octopus in its natural habitat over the summer during a 34-day expedition off the remote Phoenix Islands, more than 3,200 miles northeast of Sydney. In addition to spotting the rare deep dweller, the team discovered what they believe are several previously unknown aquatic species. They also mapped over 11,500 miles of the sea floor around the Phoenix Islands and captured video of the marine life to be found there, including the world's largest living fish, known as the whale shark. The exploration was part of an ongoing effort among experts to learn more about what lies within the planet's vastly understudied oceans. Scientists say that looking out for our own well-being starts with keeping these ecosystems healthy. What other kinds of creatures do you think lurk deep below the ocean surface? Let me know in the comments below. Number 6. Earliest origins of mammal teeth. 300 million years ago, a primitive reptile called Shashajaia Bermani modified its teeth in response to environmental instability, laying the foundations for what eventually became the incisor, the canine, and molar, teeth that all modern mammals have. Yes, you heard that right. We got our teeth from an ancient and distantly related reptile. Dr. Suresh Singh, who participated in a recent study on the creature, explained that there is a clear difference in shape between teeth in different parts of the animal's mouth. He described the Shashajaya's chompers as the precursors to what you see among today's mammals, and that this is the oldest known record of these types of teeth in the evolutionary tree. The creature existed during the late Carboniferous period, when giant insects roamed the earth and the planet was covered in swampy rainforests. When climate change saw these wetlands replaced with more arid and seasonal habitats, the diversity and availability of prey changed. It appears as though the teeth transformed in response to these changes, enabling it to hunt both semi-aquatic and land animals. The species became a top predator thanks to its teeth. Shashajaia was a member of a group of mammal-like reptiles called Therapsids, which eventually evolved into the earliest mammals. The fossil that was examined in the study was found in a part of Utah known as the Valley of the Gods, where numerous other prehistoric creatures have been unearthed. Number 5. Roman-era ring. While exploring a pair of shipwrecks off the Israeli coast near the ancient port city of Caesarea, archaeologists discovered something truly amazing. They found a Roman-era gold ring bearing an image of a shepherd boy carrying a sheep on his shoulders. Set against a green stone, early Christians used images like this to represent Jesus. The team found other treasures as well, including bronze and silver coin hoards dating back to the 3rd century, and an early 14th century coin hoard. They also uncovered a ring bearing a red gemstone, Roman-era figurines, and bronze bells that were used to ward off evil spirits. The ship's hulls sit just 13 feet underwater in the Mediterranean. They were most likely wrecked during a storm while anchored nearby, according to Israel Antiquities Authority spokesperson Jacob Sharvit. He further explained in a BBC interview that Caesarea was home to one of the first Christian communities. It's where the Apostle Peter's baptism of the Roman centurion Cornelius marked the first instance of the acceptance of a non-Jew. From there, he said, Christianity went on to spread throughout the world. Number 4. Oldest domestic dog in the Americas. The evolution of modern domestic dogs is a rather confusing topic. In fact, researchers are still trying to figure out when, where, and from whom they evolved, as well as how they first reached certain parts of the world, including North America. They added a piece to the puzzle in early 2021, when a study led by the University of Buffalo identified the oldest confirmed remains of a domestic dog in the Americas. The evidence came in the form of a femur fragment belonging to a canine that lived and died in southeast Alaska around 10,150 years ago. A DNA analysis revealed that the dog descended from a lineage that diverged from Siberian dogs as far back as 16,700 years ago. At the time, humans may have been migrating to the continent along a coastal route that encompassed the region the dog's remains were found in. In a statement, study leader and evolutionary biologist Charlotte Lindquist explained that dogs are a proxy for human occupation, meaning that their presence is an indicator that people were in an area at a given time. She pointed out that the findings fall in line with the theory that humans migrated to the Americas toward the end of the last ice age as coastal glaciers retreated, and they apparently brought their canine companions with them. It represented the first of several waves of dog migrations into the Americas, answering the question of when dogs first arrived on the continents until or unless older evidence is found. We've been with dogs for a very long time. Number 3. Largest millipede ever. England had a much more tropical climate 326 million years ago. Back then it was home to an 8-foot-long millipede that weighed as much as 110 pounds and had between 32 and 64 legs. Scary, right? To reach such a large size, it likely ate a high-nutrient diet consisting of nuts and seeds, and even small amphibians and other creatures. It was the largest millipede ever known to exist, so it probably ate whatever fit into its mouth. The fossilized creature, known as an Arthropleura, was discovered on a beach in Northumberland, England in 2018. It's the third Arthropleura ever found, with the previous 2 specimens having been discovered in Germany, and it's much older and bigger than both. The gargantuan millipede's fossil was found in a chunk of sandstone that fell onto the beach. Scientists think that this site was part of an old river channel, and that the fossil may not encompass the millipede itself, but an exoskeleton that the creature shed when it was growing even bigger. Fossils like this are rare, according to Dr. Neil Davies, who told the BBC that because experts haven't found a fossilized Arthropleura head, their knowledge of the creature remains limited. The recently discovered specimen is slated to soon go on display in Cambridge. Number 2. Mass migration changes DNA. During the Middle to the Late Bronze Age, a massive wave of migrants swept through mainland Europe and into Britain. Nobody knows what caused this large-scale movement, but a new study has revealed that it caused noticeable changes in the genetic makeup of the population. Researchers analyzed the DNA of 793 ancient skeletons found in Great Britain. They noticed that a gene enabling people to digest raw milk increased rapidly in the region during the early Iron Age, preceding the change elsewhere throughout Northern Europe by about 1,000 years. The genetic effects of the mass migration were present as early as 1400 BC in Kent. These changes remained confined to the area until around 1000 BC, when the ancestry all throughout England and Wales changed. Roughly half of the DNA in Iron Age Britain came from the newly arrived migrants, according to lead researcher David Reich, who spoke with the BBC. So, where did these people come from? So far, the closest matches researchers have found are to ancient populations in France, but they haven't yet confirmed the findings. The people who were in Britain before the migrants arrived descended mainly from the Beaker People, a culture that had come to the region at the end of the Neolithic era around the same time Stonehenge was built. In addition to bringing new DNA to the region, the Bronze Age wave of arrivals brought their own culture and customs, including Celtic languages. It's unknown whether they were the first Celtic-speaking group in Britain, or if they simply used their own versions of it. The effects the newcomers had on the existing population are unclear as far as the language goes, but their presence certainly impacted the genetics and lifestyle of the people who were already there, especially through the dietary changes that came along with being lactose tolerant. Number 1. Oldest ever family tree. Scientists have just put together one of the oldest ever family trees based on the nearly 6,000-year-old Hazleton North tomb in Cotswold Hills, England. Unearthed during the 1980s, the burial consisted of the remains of 35 people. They were excavated as part of an effort to preserve what was left of the grave after hundreds of years of farming on the land had destroyed most of it. In recent years, another team of scientists managed to extract DNA from the remains. They uncovered a complex web of relationships between the tomb's occupants, which appeared to include a 5-generation lineage that started with a man and his 4 wives. Altogether, the team managed to narrow down the relationships between 27 of the burial's 35 occupants. Interestingly, the family included 4 so-called stepsons, who bore their mother's lineage but were not descended from any of the men in the tomb. 2 young girls were buried in the grave, but there were no adult daughters, who researchers think may have been laid to rest in their spouses' tombs. There were 5 unrelated men found in the burial who were probably connected to the family in some way, but weren't genetically related. The exact nature of these relationships is still a mystery, but they were all buried together, so they must have been pretty close. Most Neolithic tombs found in Europe don't display this level of complexity. The family buried at Hazleton North was most likely polygamous and reflects a patrilineal way of life from the society's earlier days when they arrived to the area as immigrants. Thanks for watching! What's the coolest thing you've ever discovered? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more. See you later!